Hey guys, it's Jet888 here. It is August 1st. That's 8-1. Have you been hearing enough of this? PAXLOVID? Is that how you say it? You know me, I love to look at the anagram. So PAXLOVID, I see one possibility of it is avoid PXL. And what's PXL in gematria? PXL in Jewish gematria is 380. Here are three possibilities of 380: God of Islam, Serpent, and Global Reset. It's also Drumpf, Predator, letter Q, and PXL in the simple gematria equals 52. 52 is Devil, Gates, which is also stage. Look at that, NWO. Look at that, you turn that upside down. So one thing, I was looking at this PDF file. It's Paxlovid fact sheet for patients and caregivers, and it talks about, when I go down here, it talks about what does Paxlovid contain. And what I found interesting is it simply told you about the inactive ingredients. It doesn't talk about, look at that, polyethylene glycol. So here's some side effects of polyethylene glycol. One is hives, difficulty breathing, swelling of your face, lips, tongue, or throat. One site asks if it's toxic, and it says there's an explosion of neurological side effects seemingly correlated to polyethylene glycol administration. Some other effects of that include anger, anxiety, mood swings, seizures, sensory disturbances. Propylene glycol, side effects, potential toxicity to the liver and kidneys. Yeah, because we don't need those. Wasn't remdesivir, didn't that also have a little bit of a kidney liver issue? It's interesting. There's quite a number actually of articles about this being used in antifreeze. You know what happens when your dog or cat eats antifreeze? One thing I found interesting here, I was looking for that. What are the active ingredients in Paxlovid? Going back to the whole trying to find the active ingredients, because this site that we're looking at by Pfizer didn't give the active ingredients. So I went to this site because look at the label of the link, acy.org, and then question mark, what are the active ingredients in Paxlovid? So of course you're gonna, if you want to see what the active ingredients are, I'm gonna go to it. So I click on it. Here we're at the site right here. Advocates for Children and Youth. Advocates for Children and Youth to cease operations. Baltimore, Maryland. After 35 years to champion the needs of Maryland's young people, Advocates for Children and Youth will immediately cease operations and begin the process of legally closing down the organization. Now I wonder, are they running from something? But anyhow, the whole thing here, and it's in Maryland, this is the whole article, not one comment or word. Nancy Hall's the director. Anyhow, not one word about propylene glycol. So it's polyethylene glycol. Polyethylene glycol. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So polyethylene glycol. What could go wrong? Okay, but it still is in the antifreeze. And coming here, looking at this document, it talks about electrolytes are added to PEG, polyethylene glycol solutions used for colonic lavage before colonoscopy to avoid the potential adverse effects associated with diarrhea such as dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. Now here's a site that asks the question, why is polyethylene glycol, or what is it, and why is it in some COVID vaccines? And they're talking about both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines contain polyethylene glycol. Now, why would they need that stuff in for people to ingest or be injected with? So at least they're giving you the heads up. So Dr. Jill Roberts at USF, is that University of San Francisco? No, let's see. 10 Tampa Bay spoke with Dr. Jill Roberts at USF Health, and to give you a sharper insight, Roberts says it's used for stabilizing. And the reason it's used in the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines is that the little piece of genetics that's creating the response we want is very unstable. So they're going to shove that unstable piece of genetics in you and hoping for the best that this polyethylene glycol will stabilize it. Now, this PubMed article by NIH.gov says polyethylene glycol is a cause of anaphylaxis to the Pfizer BioNTech mRNA COVID-19 vaccine. So just looking at this article real quick, and it says conflict of interest statement. The authors declare no conflict of interest. Does that mean there isn't one, or they just don't declare one? And there's no abstract available. Okay, so even the fact checkers, because we can trust them, so they even say and agree with the statement that polyethylene glycol is in the vaccines. It says it's true that the BioNTech Pfizer vaccine does contain polyethylene glycol. Okay, so that's good. So this is not misinformation. And they do state that in the vaccine, PEG is just an excipient. So it's not an active ingredient. Yes, and that's my question is, where are the active ingredients? Oh, and kind of going down here, it says it's true that a vaccine against a different kind of coronavirus in cats did kill those cats that were vaccinated sooner than those not. But the mechanism at 80 are not well understood. Since they didn't understand it, they thought the best course of direction was to just go ahead and start jabbing them into people's arms, young and old. Oh my God, one of these fact checkers, they just were asked, the question was asked. The much too short duration in the study does not allow a realistic estimation of the late effects, and they say there are many reasons why this COVID-19 vaccine has been quicker developed than any other vaccines. The vaccine has been trialed extensively, as all vaccines are, but much of the analysis is happening simultaneously as being reviewed on a rolling basis to speed things up due to the pandemic. So the vaccine has been trialed extensively, simultaneously. So you are the trial, because as they're getting the information, they are too learning for the first time, as we all are, what really happens with these. Anyhow, don't you think the question it's interesting that when you ask what is polyethylene glycol, or how is that in the active ingredients for PAXLOVID, how it comes to this ADFO kits with a big round O for children and youth. I think that's really interesting. It actually says not one thing about PAXLOVID. I'll leave you the link. Here's another inactive ingredient. According to this page, remediesnutrition.com, this crosscarmelose sodium does not have any official side effects. But in 2010, one woman, just one, was taken to the hospital for pulmonary edema, congestive heart failure, and extremely high blood pressure. It may also, sorry, my phone shut off. It's also, it can help, like it can make someone relapse Crohn's disease if they had Crohn's. Sorry, I hope I didn't lose my place here. So another inactive ingredient, colloidal silicon dioxide. Oh, isn't this interesting? The silicon dioxide samples here, they say they're the same thing. Silicon dioxide and silica are basically the same thing. This says there are many different uses of silicon dioxide. We use it for the production of Portland cement, for sand casting, in hydraulic fracturing, as a precursor to produce glass, to make optical fibers for telecommunication. Optical fibers for telecommunication. And this was, Home Science and Nature. Let's see, Science and Nature. This is differencesbetween.com. This little study I saw at the, where was this? Yep, PubMed, the NIH.gov, Toxicology of Silica and Nanoparticles, an update. So where it wasn't toxic before, this basically says, particularly colloidal, and they're talking about silica, induced toxicity via mechanisms similar to crystalline silica. And if you go to this December 2011 pubmed.gov, it says mechanisms of crystalline silica induced pulmonary toxicity revealed by global gene expression profiling. So the differential gene expression profile induced by silica correlated with its toxicity in the A549 cells. The biological processes perturbed by silica exposure in the A549 cells and rat lungs, as identified by the bioinformatics analysis of differentially expressed genes, demonstrated significant similarity. So the genes identified cancer, cellular movement, cellular growth and proliferation, cell death, inflammatory response, cell cycle, cellular development, and genetic disorder as top-ranking biological functions perturbed by silica exposure in A549 cells and rat lungs. Let's go look what those cells are. So basically, it's a human lung cell. And it's kind of funny because when you look at the numbers 549, it's simulation. But this might be more about inhaling it rather than ingesting it. I'm not sure though. But when they talk about the toxicity of these silica colloidal particles, and at the very end they say unambiguous linking of physico-chemical properties of that silica types to toxicity, bioavailability, or human health effects is not yet possible. So it's not yet possible. They don't really know what the effects are, but they're still putting it in. And it's not just this Pfizer people. It's a lot of people use these. But oxidative stress, I wonder if they're spraying it. Like one of the diagrams here, it talks about allowed human inhalation exposure. I just kind of wonder if they, if we're getting it exposed via spraying. Just one last thing I'm going to show here, titanium dioxide, because I'm running out of battery here. I know they're talking about ingesting this, but this study I saw at archive.org, nasal and pulmonary toxicity of titanium dioxide nanoparticles, and I'll leave you the link here too, but for some reason, they want to know what these titanium particles will do if rats exposed through inhalation, like breathing them. I thought that's weird, like why would you want to know that? But it talks about lung inflammation and injury. It shows a lot of interesting things, and I'm going to cut down to the chase here. So again, I mean, it is talking about nanoparticles, but I think we all know how interested they are in that right now. So they looked at the tissues and the lungs. Those are lungs. And here were nasal cavities examined of the rats exposed to titanium. And here it said that those exposed to the titanium had increases in the incidence of pneumonia, tracheitis, rhinitis. And in one here it says that it affected the nasal cavity and the olfactory epithelium degeneration. Maybe that affects their sense of smell. This also says the study is in agreement with other previous studies that showed following inhalation exposure, nanoparticles traveled via the nasal nerves to the brain. Other studies have also indicated that olfactory route may be an important transfer route for inhaled nanoparticles to the central nervous system. I just think this is interesting, and with all the spraying we've been seeing, I just felt that was kind of weird. I know this is nanotech, but still titanium. If they can even just get into a dust particle size. But anyhow, it says it increases the incidence of pneumonia and affected the sense of smell. And this titanium going through the nasal cavity has potential toxicity that can be translocated to other organs, especially the brain. Anyone have brain fog lately? But why would people use titanium dioxide? Nanoparticles, they've been used in white pigment and paint, food coloring agent, and a wastewater remediation agent. So upon inhalation, titanium nanoparticles are deposited in all the regions of respiratory system and distributed to other organs throughout the cardiovascular circulation. I wonder if the I can't breathe has anything to do with titanium dioxide, but there's induced fibrosis and lung inflammation. But they do talk about chemical carcinogenic risk to humans, so why would you have people ingest it? And just to know the ingredients of titanium dioxide, I'll leave this link too. It was by the Korean Society of Toxicology. So PAXLOVID, though, is made up of two different medications, and one is, how do you say that, nirmatrelvir and ritonavir. But also, one more of the inactive ingredients in ritonavir is talc, and talc also has asbestos in it. So in PAXLOVID shows that first nirmatrelvir tablets plus says co-packed with ritonavir tablets. Look at the anagram. Nirmatrelvir plus ritonavir equals Invert Antiviral Mirror. So invert, you flip it upside down or undo. Look, to turn inside out or upside down to reverse the position, order, or condition, to reverse. So an antiviral would become viral. Invert antiviral mirror. So you got a viral mirror there between that. So like I said in the beginning, bye you guys.